Although I'd like to be holding this sharing ball right now, actually, instead of this clicker. So yeah, we're going to talk about sales productivity, but I thought I would start with talking a little bit about enablement. Because I was having dinner last night with a gentleman who just took on the role of VP of Global Sales Enablement for a fairly large company. And I asked him that question, so how does your company define sales enablement? And he said, we don't have a common definition. That's the problem. And we're seeing that as well, Mark. We're seeing that our clients, we work with hundreds of B2B clients, and each of them is defining sales enablement slightly differently. It is a function that is continuing to evolve. It is a function that is continually being defined. And I have the opportunity to guest lecture at the University of Connecticut Executive MBA program. Yay, Huskies. Woo! Dual national champs, again, thank you. And I guest lecture in Hartford. Anybody here from Hartford, Connecticut? Okay, so I call my little joke with Hartford, if they call New York the city that never sleeps, Hartford's the city that never wakes. So I've been guest lecturing for about 5 years now, and 5 years ago I asked, and this is a marketing MBA program, and I asked the class, there are about 25 people, I said, so how many of you had heard the term sales enablement before tonight? One hand went up. Now, I just was back there a couple of weeks ago. I asked the same question, again, about 25 people, and 23 hands went up. So we know that if we're getting into Hartford, enablement is here to stay. That's the good news. But you know, what we're finding is that no matter how you're defining sales enablement, it's all about facing the same challenges and trying to solve the same problems. And Mark talked about engagement. And one of the things that we do at Sirius Decisions, we do a lot of research in the area of B2B marketing and sales. And we ask the question every year, what are your key business issues? What are your top challenges? What are those inhibitors that prohibit your salespeople from hitting quota? Year over year, for the last 10 years, as you can see that top answer, our salespeople don't have the ability to articulate a value message. So we can say this right now, and that's 71%. 71% of companies said, hey, we're not doing a very good job of equipping our salespeople to tell that value story. So when we think about that engagement component of the 3 E's, we got some work to do. The second response, largest response, was around giving our salespeople more time for selling. You can see there 65% of companies said our salespeople spend way too much time on non-sales activities. And when you look at those two top issues, not being able to articulate a value proposition, not having enough selling time, and it gets back to that overarching goal for those sales-first organizations, is we need to align to improve sales productivity. And again, we look at it from that efficiency and effectiveness perspective. Our definition with efficiency is making sure that our salespeople are optimized on spending time on what we call high-value activities. Getting ready for a sales call by researching the company and being prepared, that's a high-value activity. Spending time redoing the same proposal over and again, probably a low-value activity. We want to start to shift time for our salespeople to high-value activities. On the effectiveness side of the equation, it's all about making our salespeople better in those activities. It's about improving the yield per activity, whether it's prospecting and engaging buyers for the first time, managing that sales cycle in the middle, or being able to present to a senior executive at the end to close that deal. It's all about looking at every activity and looking to improve the yield per activity. As I mentioned, we work with hundreds of B2B companies, and one of the ways that they want to look at productivity is by doing an audit of how their salespeople spend their day. So they'll do either a time and motion study or a sales activity survey to try to figure out, okay, how are our salespeople spending their time? How much time do they actually spend on those non-sales activities? Just a show of hands, how many of you have done some kind of sales activity audit or time and motion study in the last 6 months? Okay, might be a good idea to, when you get back there, if you want some help doing that, we've got tools that can help you do that. What we'll find that with our clients who do these types of audits is they'll collect a lot of data, and then they're not quite sure what to do with it. They can see sometimes, hey, we can see pockets of inefficiency, but we're really not quite sure what to do with all this data. So one of our jobs, my job as an analyst and the job of our analyst team, is to try to provide simple tools for our salespeople, for our customers to use to simplify complex tasks. So we came up with something that we call the Relative Productivity Framework, and I'm going to share that with you today. And the whole notion is pretty simple. You can take any activity that your salespeople are doing right now, and you can map it to one of these 4 quadrants. And you can take those activities, and you can put them against 4 criteria. Those 4 criteria are the following. 1, is it a core selling activity? We define a core selling activity pretty simply. It's any activity a salesperson is doing that's going to help them either get into a deal or move a deal down the pipeline. Then there's all that other stuff that salespeople do, non-core activities. And then they're either doing those activities kind of behind the scenes internally, or they're directly engaging with buyers. And directly engaging with buyers could be connecting with them on LinkedIn, I'm connecting with them on Twitter, I'm sending them an email, I'm on the phone with them, I'm face-to-face. But there's some conversation that's happening. It could be a virtual conversation or it could be a real-time conversation, but we are now directly engaging with that buyer. So if we look at those activities that our clients are collecting in their audits, we start to map them against these 4 quadrants. So if we look at that lower left quadrant, this is the stuff that drives, I ran sales and marketing for a company, this is the stuff that drives you crazy. Reps spending time on expense reports, travel time. We had one client who found out that their salespeople were spending 2 to 3 hours every week calculating their commissions. Because they had such a crazy commission plan, the reps would close a deal, get back to the office, they had no idea how much money they made. So they'd sit there and try to figure out what were my commissions on this particular deal. That's a no-yield activity. And what we say is, hey, you want to look to minimize the time your reps are spending in this quadrant. Minimize it if you can, eliminate it. The bottom right quadrant, it's a non-core selling activity, but our reps are now directly engaging with a buyer. And you might say, well, Jim, every time a rep engages with a buyer, isn't it a selling opportunity? And the answer is maybe. There are times when salespeople will spend time with their clients where they're really not selling. You know, I certainly saw this in a sales management role, and I was tracking my reps' activities, and I'd noticed that some of the reps were going back to the same clients over and over again. Why? Because they liked them. We didn't have an opportunity to do any more work with that client, and they were kind of done there. And in other cases, salespeople are asked to do what I'll call customer service activities. So, hey, I've got a problem with my billing, or hey, the shipment is late. And we say here in this quadrant, you either want to leverage the time reps are spending here, because this could be important in terms of building relationship, or if we really don't have the ability to extend and build a relationship, we might want to look to delegate that to another low-cost resource. Now, ideally, our salespeople are spending as much time as possible in the upper quadrants. Again, these are core selling activities, so these are any activities our reps are doing that either help them get into a deal or move a deal down the pipeline. So in our upper left quadrant, this is all the stuff our salespeople are doing to get ready for their calls. It's building proposals, building presentations. But it also would include sales training, skills training, managing opportunities, coaching sessions, account planning. And what we say here is you want to look to streamline those activities. And this has become a very important quadrant for all of our clients. And this is the quadrant that we typically spend a lot of time evaluating in terms of how are your salespeople spending the hours that they have here. Because if they are spending 3 to 4 hours a week doing a proposal, or doing proposals, when they could be, when we could, reduce that to an hour, now we've given our salespeople back 3 to 4 hours to work on, doing better research on the companies they're calling on, doing better pre-call planning. And then the upper right quadrant, This is the quadrant where now our reps are directly engaging with buyers. So again, it's either email, phone, social, face-to-face. And here we want to maximize not only our time, but also these activities. When we look at maximizing, it's not just about maximizing the hours, but also how effective our salespeople are in those hours. So when we look at these 4 quadrants, we can further label them. We call that lower left quadrant the black hole. This is, I remember doing an audit for a client. I went out, they've got remote salespeople working from home offices. I actually spent time in, watching these people work in their homes. It was rather creepy, actually. But we found that their salespeople were spending 2 to 3 hours every week on technology problems. Trying to figure out how to put audio into a PowerPoint presentation, or getting their printer to work, or getting a replacement for the laptop that they just ran over in their driveway. So those are, again, you want to look at the time spent in this quadrant and try to eliminate or minimize it. Our lower right quadrant we call the relationship quadrant. This is an important quadrant. We want to make sure that the time being spent in this quadrant can really be leveraged. Are we building relationships that we can extend, or are we just building relationships for the sake of building relationships? And then as we look at our upper quadrant, our upper left quadrant is the enablement quadrant. So one of the things, again, no matter how our clients are defining sales enablement, at the end of the day, the activities they're doing are all about preparing our salespeople for the upper right, and that's the engagement quadrant. So typically what we'll hear from our clients is they'll say, hey, we want to maximize selling time. I certainly, again, when I was running sales, that was my focus. If I can just get my salespeople out more and more, that's goodness. Activity is goodness. But we're finding, our research is actually finding that it's the upper left quadrant that's going to make the difference. Again, if we go back to our challenge, the number one challenge, 71% of companies saying, hey, our salespeople can't articulate a value message. Well, if we just keep throwing them out and doing more calls, they're not probably going to get any better at articulating a value message. We need to work at enabling our salespeople, preparing them, and making them better so that they can compete in that upper right quadrant. So one of the things we do at Sirius Decisions is every year we have our summit coming up in May in Orlando, May 21 through 23. It's a little bit warmer in Orlando, by the way, than Chicago.
That's what I hear.
If it snows in Orlando, we're really in a lot of trouble. But one of the things we do at our summit is we recognize clients for outstanding work across marketing, sales, and product. And we selected this year 4 companies to recognize as Sales Enablement Programs of the Year. So out of 85 companies, we looked at companies who did a really good job of aligning those functions. So they were aligning marketing, product, and sales to focus on sales productivity. And they demonstrated a relentless focus on improving their salespeople's productivity. So here are the winners. I'm just going to go through them really quick, Mark, if I could. So Highland Software, we're recognizing them. This is a company that is growing rapidly through acquisition. And one of the challenges from an enablement perspective is you've got all this content now coming from other companies and different sales processes. And they did a great job of using a framework that we've created to help organize and align their enablement efforts in taking these acquired companies and really bringing them into the fold and, again, improving the productivity of all their salespeople. The second is company ADP. And what ADP has done really well and continues to do really well is they are looking at that continuous conversation that we're having, both online and in real time. And they've created tools and processes to help their salespeople have a better online conversation with their buyers and also having a better real-time conversation with their buyers through the use of a really cool tablet tool that they have. Hootsuite. You would think a company that is a social media platform would already have really great social sellers, and they do. But they wanted to get even better. And so they looked at how their salespeople use their own tool and other social tools. And what they've done is they've enabled their salespeople by incorporating those social tools into the processes that they do every day. And then last but not least, Rockwell Automation. And Rockwell Automation, when we think about how companies can grow, you can grow through acquisition, you can grow by constant innovation, you can compete by going into new markets. And Rockwell Automation has some pretty aggressive growth goals, and they've decided to compete by improving the productivity of their salespeople. They've demonstrated they've adopted our relative productivity framework, our sales activity framework, to understand how their reps are spending their time and are continually looking to improve the productivity of their salespeople. And they've also done a great job of capturing the knowledge, that they call it the gray hairs, the knowledge of their experienced salespeople, and making sure that that's available to their reps, and they can leverage that knowledge across the organization. So those are the 4 companies. Now I understand, Mark, that there might be a couple of those folks here with us today.
There are. I think one of the big things that we want to do here when we all get together is we want to not just talk about all of our problems and the roadmap ahead. I think it's really important we celebrate all of our successes, don't you?
Yeah.
Right? So let's do that. Let's take a quick moment to do that. I know there's a few folks here from ADP. Could I ask you all to stand in your seats and just give a big wave, and everybody give them a big round of applause. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Awesome. 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 Yeah. ADP has been a customer of ours for a number of years, and 2 years ago, we selected them as one of the Pioneer Award winners, the award we give out every year to people who have made the most progress, who are driving the most innovation. They got that 2 years ago, and it's thrilling to see that they're now, the kinds of results are getting recognized across the industry, besides the things that we're doing. So congratulations to ADP. The next group is Rockwell, also a Pioneer Award winner last year. They had a remarkable journey over the last few years, and I'd like to ask the entire Rockwell team to stand up, and I understand there's a lot of people here. Please take a stand. Great. Would you like to learn a little bit more about the Rockwell story?
I sure would.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's have, can we have Andy Ramspot, who's responsible for the enablement program inside of Rockwell, to come on up and join us. Andy. Welcome.
Thanks.
First, I'd like to just ask Jim a question, if I could, and just go back to the relative productivity framework. And I love it because it's practical, and as people learn different levels of that, it's easy to communicate that structure inside of an organization. They're not dramatically complex schematics. It's practical. It's using language and structure that people in different functions can rally around. Could you share some more about, as you're building out your business and the recognition of this award, you just talk a little bit more about that award, how many people apply for it, and what part of your event that's going to happen in Orlando is focused on the whole enablement?
Sure. So as I mentioned, it was over 85 companies that we evaluated. And again, the focus was alignment. Our summit is about aligning marketing, product, and sales, and we were looking for organizations who demonstrated not only strong sales enablement capabilities, but also, how do we align marketing and product in order to achieve that objective?
Awesome. Thank you. So, Andy, let's talk about Rockwell for a minute. Okay. Rockwell's been on quite a transformation here. We've been working together for a few years since I joined the company. I think on day 7 we met, and been watching
right here,
a little bit smaller stage, but it was right here. And I just watched the energy level across Rockwell and the focus from the top of the company to be able to go through this transformation. Let's step out of sales enablement for a minute, and let's just talk about Rockwell in terms of what's been happening from a financial point of view, so people get a better picture around what's happened with this company.
Sure. Hey, first off, thanks for the recognition on behalf of myself and my counterparts out here in the audience, so I appreciate that. From a Rockwell perspective, as many of you in this room have some very significant growth targets we've been expected to achieve. It always never quite enough, and we get rewarded with the next quarter of performance. So we've had that both at a top line as well as we've made some strategic bets for our company for the future. And we've had great results over the last several years on both the top line as well as these bets or these initiatives. And it's really resulted in being rewarded on Wall Street. Our stock price and stock performance, as you said a couple of years ago, has been up and to the right. So we're very happy with that. Our CEOs really continue to challenge us on growth and also performance. And performance is really relentless pursuit of productivity. And so that's every function across the company. Sales and marketing is not immune to that. And so we've really driven the productivity equation in a big way. And again, that's produced some great results for us as well.
Awesome. Can you just put some numbers around that for our audience here in terms of how Rockwell has grown from kind of what to what in recent quarters?
2010, we were $4.5 billion. This year, we'll finish at just under $7 billion. So.
It's awesome. What do you think?
Awesome.
Great success story. So again, congratulations on this great award.
Thanks.
In the last year, you've been on a journey. Just take the last year. Can you just share a little bit more for our audience the big nuggets of the progress that you've made inside of the organization to enable the Rockwell to get these growth rates?
Sure. You know, as I look at it, you know, when we started this journey, it was probably kind of a content kind of question, like probably many people started. And we quickly realized it's more than content. It's really about content in context of the selling situation, and how can we enable that salesperson in their daily pursuits and their daily activities. And as we went through that evolution and that journey, we realized that we've got about 16,000 salespeople between Rockwell and our distributor partners worldwide that we're trying to move. And so you think about that bell curve. We're trying to move that bell curve to the right to really drive that productivity. And so what we started to do is we really wanted to learn from the best so we could move the rest. And so we started bringing together sales, marketing, our product businesses, and sitting down and thinking about what's a salesperson need to do to move a prospect forward and ultimately end in a deal for us. And so when you bring sales, marketing, and the product together, you get some interesting ahas. They get some great alignment between those organizations. You know, salespeople that thought that skit was right on. I got to steal that from you, by the way. You know, you get salespeople that say that marketing crap and they're not doing their job. If they only produce these kind of tools for me, I could get better. And you get marketing and say, well, if the salespeople actually took what I did and continued it on, we could get some more deals. And so that's been a great evolution, is getting those alignment. It's ultimately resulted in guided selling. So some terms, playbooks, or we call it guided selling. So how do we take some of the common functions around our initiatives, or common daily functions of a salesperson, and help guide them and coach them so that we can ultimately get those 16,000 people to move to the right and continue to grow.
Awesome.
It's interesting. We just recently did a survey back in December we got over 500 respondents from our salespeople globally. And a couple of nuggets that we came. One was we asked them pre to post Savo implementation, how much time have you saved in preparing, getting ready for a sales call, basically. On average, the response is about 90 minutes per salesperson per week. Now, last night, a gal from UPS challenged me, said, well, how much of that time is going back to selling? And I said, I don't know that answer, but we're making an assumption that a decent portion is going back to selling.
That was a great question, gal from UPS. We know who you are.
She nugged me in. The second stat that I thought was really interesting came out. We said, hey, pre-Savo implementation, what percentage of the tools, the content, the resources that you needed to help close a deal were available to you? And the answer was 20 to 40%. Now, we haven't done anything materially different since the time we started this till now, but we asked, hey, after Savo implementation, what percentage of the content's available to you to do your job? And the answer is now 60 to 80%. So those are big productivity numbers for us, and we're proud of them, and we'll continue on that journey.
That is awesome. I want to thank Jim for sharing the relative productivity model. I want to thank Andy, congratulate you again, and the whole Rockwell team, the ADP team. How about a nice round of applause for, I guess, thank you. Yep. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Jim, thank you very much. This afternoon, the last session today is the comprehensive presentation by Sirius on all the new research. The first time it's going to be shared is going to be this afternoon in the last session by Edge Koppel. So you saw one slide, and I promise you, when you see the rest of it, you're going to be able to start to think about how you fit into what the rest of the industry is doing. Are you better? Are you worse? Are you going to get some ideas in terms of what the rest of the world is thinking about from a metric point of view in terms of what we need to be able to do? We're really proud of the progress, ADP, the progress that Rockwell has made, and we offer them our congratulations. And again, thanks for your partnership with Savo. It's absolutely great.